Hello folks, welcome back to my channel. It's another Try to Get Ready with me. Every time I say that these are going to be happier and more cheerful and more hopeful. And every time they are not. And this time is kind of no exception. I'm filming this in early February. I'm just doing some makeup to get ready for some filming today. Trying to get a lot of content pre-done so I don't have to worry about it during my spring and early summer travels. And I've got a whole laundry list of cool Try to Get Ready with Me topics that I want to cover and I want to do, but everything is scary and stressful in the world, and I feel like it would be remiss of me not to discuss it. And, you know, someone might be out there and be like, Lynn, you're going to discuss, like, heavy topics and politics and the state of America in Try to Get Ready with Me, where you do makeup and just yap about it. And I don't know. Yeah, I am. I feel like the last couple of weeks I have been launched into activism in a way that I never have before. And that's not to say that I haven't done any activism or any work in the past. I've just never done it so publicly facing. For me, yes, I have like a channel, I have a platform, I make content online, and I've tried to do my best with those spaces to uplift and elevate important topics and important things. I did a ton of work with Operation Olive Branch, fundraising for families in Gaza, and trying to help them escape and get to safety. I've tried posting about causes that are near and dear to me in Seattle, things like saving the Black Lives Matter Memorial Garden and the Services Not Sweeps programs and advocacy for unhoused folks here in the Seattle area. But my thing has never been like political activist content online. I don't have the media training, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the nuance, I don't have the time and space and energy and spoons. I just want to create content about piercings, and if I can use some of the background of my platform to repost and share and elevate voices from people who are far more educated about those things than me, that's what I've done. And when it's been really important and I felt like I've known enough to speak out and speak accurately, I've tried to. But as most folks already know, in the last couple of weeks since this new administration took over in America, there have been a lot of attacks on transgender people. There's also been a lot of attacks on various marginalized groups, on immigrants, on everyone. It's not like it's just trans folks who are struggling here. But as a trans person myself, and as a non-binary person, someone who no longer exists according to the American government, I finally felt like this was something where I did have the education to speak up about it, and I did have the ability to say something, and say something that was valuable, and say something that was worthwhile. So I've spent the last couple of weeks making videos on my TikTok, and even cross-posting them to Instagram and other platforms. Girlfriend feels really strongly about this, if you can hear her in the background, about what it's like to be trans in America, about why I identify as non-binary, about why I got top surgery, about why it's helped me so immensely in my body, about what all of this means to me, in the hopes that, I don't know, maybe a couple people will listen to those videos and it'll open their minds or open their hearts. Maybe people who already like me for my piercing content and already like the knowledge and education I have to share might be a little bit more willing to listen to my lived experiences. It felt like it wasn't something that I could stay quiet on. And it's hard. It's really, really hard right now. I have a lot of complex feelings about this whole situation, and, you know, maybe a YouTube video while I'm doing my makeup isn't the place for, like, nuance and depth and different levels to this. And who knows, we'll see if once this is published and live, I regret talking about this, but I feel strongly, so I'm going to. My first struggle is, I think, the most obvious. It's, like, really fucking hard to be trans right now. you know? It's even harder to be non-binary in some ways. Like, my identity is being completely invalidated by the government. I had an issue getting back into the country after my trip to New Zealand because I have an X-gender marker on my passport. I don't know how that's going to affect the rest of my travel for the rest of this year. And I have never gotten more specifically non-binary hate and vitriol on my content than I have in the last couple of weeks. And the hardest part in all of this is the hate that's coming from within the trans community. I can weather cis people telling me that they don't think I'm real, or they don't think that I exist, or they think that my identity is dumb or made up, but it's trans people coming into my comments saying, non-binary identities are too hard for cis people to understand. You are making it harder for the movement to grow ground by doing this. If you want to identify as non-binary, you need to present more androgynous. I don't think you're actually trans because you still look so feminine. Never mind the fact that you've been on hormones for 3 years and you've had top surgery and you've socially transitioned and you've changed your name and you've changed your gender marker. I still don't think you're really trans. And that, like, negativity from within the community and erasure of my existence from within the community is so hard that I cannot put into words how much it hurts and impacts me. And speaking of hate within the community and, like, disconnect within the community, this, like, requirement of perfect activism that I'm seeing creep up in a lot of leftist spaces, and a lot of liberal spaces, and just a lot of online spaces, is, I think, so unbelievably harmful to the movement. I have been posting about issues facing transgender folks in America right now and connecting with trans charities and doing a lot of work in that lens, because I'm a transgender person myself and I have a lot of lived experience and understanding to bring to the table with these conversations. I can talk about my experience transitioning. I can talk about my experience with name and gender marker changes and offer direct advice on that. I'm also the child of an immigrant, and my biological father is a first-generation South American immigrant, and I have some connections to my cultural heritage on that side and some very loose understandings of immigration, but not anything really detailed or comprehensive where I think I could put forth the same accurate educational information and activism work about what's currently happening for immigrants. So instead, I've been reposting content from people who do, sharing resources, especially resources from my local area, and doing what work I can to cross-promote and work with charities and organizations that are specifically helping immigrants. But without fail, on my posts about transgender issues and, like, things that are facing the trans community, I'll always have at least 1 or 2 people comment, Lynn, why are you only talking about things that directly affect you? Why aren't you talking about all of these other things that are happening right now? And my response is always, well, I am trying to talk about those things in sharing and reposting and elevating more educated voices than mine and doing work with these groups and organizations, but I don't personally think I have enough knowledge or experience or education to be a voice that should be centered on immigrant issues. I think it's my place to uplift and center other voices that have that knowledge and experience, and I think if there is a place for my voice to be centered, it would be more on trans non-binary issues. And I'm seeing this happen kind of across the board. I have a lot of friends who've been doing specific activism with ICE raids and immigration issues who have gotten people in their comments going, why aren't you speaking up more about transgender issues? And they say, well, I don't know enough, but I've tried to elevate this group or that group. And it seems to me like people are expecting this level of perfectionism from someone who is an ally or an activist to be always posting about every issue, every cause, every problem, everything, to be working with every charity, every group, every org, rather than looking at it as this interlinked community where people can focus on the issues that they have a specialization or lived experience or knowledge with, while also trying to support and uplift others who are doing other work and have their own knowledge and experience and expertise with this. And I think, once again, like, I could handle vitriol from the right and hate and negativity from people who just purely don't agree with or understand any of this all day, all night. But it's the negativity and the violence and the anger from within my own community that I struggle with a lot more. And it's so crushing to watch the way I feel like we are so divided right now. You know, I have some people who I'm mutuals with online and who I work with who have been spending weeks and weeks doing nothing but posting like, oh, did you vote third party? Oh, did you vote Jill Stein? Oh, did you abstain from the vote because of whatever? Like, this is your fault. See what's happening? Don't you feel bad? And I just have no interest in making those posts or having those arguments, because you know what? It's not going to do anything right now. We can argue for forever about what led to this, about what caused it, about how it happened. And there's some merit to be had in like breaking that down and picking it apart. But frankly, it's not going to change the fact that we're in the situation now. I'd rather just do the work that makes things better. I'd rather just do the activism that makes things better. I'd rather show up for local sweeps in my area and put in my time and energy to help unhoused people with their belongings. I'd rather do letter writing to trans and queer prisoners who are dealing with levels of oppression that those of us who are not currently in prison couldn't fathom. I'd rather spend my time working with the local T4T charity and donating clothing and makeup and skincare supplies and like doing mutual aid work within my own studio than arguing about whose fault it is on the internet. And I think as long as we stay divided about these issues and hold each other to standards of toxic perfectionism, or completely freeze up and do nothing because we're so overwhelmed by everything happening that we can't even find it in ourselves to do even one thing, I think we don't make any progress. I think we don't do anything. I think nothing meaningful happens. And it's hard. The overwhelm is hard. I'm dealing with it too. I'm facing it too. There have been so many times, more than I can count over the last couple of weeks, that I have just wanted to curl up in bed and pull the covers over my head and pretend that this isn't happening and pretend that this isn't going on and ignore it or focus on anything else. And I've felt that same sensation in my mind when I see people and I'm like, oh, you could be speaking up about this. Oh, you could be doing this. Oh, you could be doing that. And I've had to, you know, this very fantastic piercer in the industry, Rachel LeBron, says all the time, ACAB includes the cop in your head. I've had to correct myself when I have those thoughts and be like, I don't know what that person's doing behind the scenes. I don't know what effort and work that person is putting in or where their skill set is or what they could be useful at. And maybe they are doing stuff that I don't see, or maybe they are reaching out in ways that I'm not aware of. And I'm not going to hold people to toxic perfectionism standards, because toxic perfectionism is part of white supremacy. And that's the last thing that I want to uphold. You know, radical racial justice leaves room for transformation, for growth, for improvement. That's what I'm more interested in. But I don't know. I don't know that there was a point to this chat to get ready with me. I think it was just expressing my stress and fear and concerns about everything that's going on, but especially my frustration that so much of the pain and anguish happening right now is happening within our own communities, and it's happening due to really petty, unhealthy infighting that isn't benefiting anyone. As far as what I'm doing to not freeze up or do that, I'm doing what I can in my own world, doing gender-affirming care and mutual aid work within my piercing studio. As I'm filming this, I'm in the process of opening Nexus, and by the time this is posted, a lot of stuff will be available online. So like, you'll probably already know that my first day open will be all gender-affirming piercings and work within the trans community, that I'm trying to do a lot of work for marginalized communities with sliding scale services and making piercing more acceptable to folks who otherwise wouldn't, and doing a lot of donation and charity work with groups that I feel really passionate about, like the Two Spirit Network and the T4T Swap, and just any other orgs that I can get on board to work with and support through this. But what that might look like for you is getting involved with at least one organization in your area, one charity, whatever the cause may be. Can you pass out masks or COVID tests for a local mask block? Can you show up to a city council meeting and speak out against harmful practices? Can you send some emails or do some letter writing? There's so many different resources for every area around the country where you can find and get involved in whatever way works for you. There's a lot of virtual, distant resources too, where you can help out just online. Even just taking the time to read and educate yourself about more progressive policies and about ways that we can resist and fight back to this is helpful. And listening to and supporting marginalized creators, small businesses, etc. in your area is also another really meaningful way. Think about where you purchase your groceries, purchase your clothes, buy gifts for your friends? Is there a way that you can use that to support these people in your area? My favorite way of local activism is helping with sweeps. There are a lot of very cruel sweeps done on unhoused individuals around Seattle, and I have notifications turned on for the 3 neighborhoods that are easy for me to walk to. And if I'm not busy with work and I get a notification about the sweep, I throw on my coat and my water boots and some gloves, and I head out and I help people save their belongings from being swept, and I help them with advocating for themselves against sweep teams, being a physical barrier for my unhoused neighbors if things start to take a turn for the worse. And it's basic physical labor. I'm just picking up people's belongings and moving them across the street or down the way or to where they won't get swept, and then helping them figure out getting resettled. Sometimes it's running to the store real quick and buying them a drink and a quick meal. It generally doesn't cost me any more than my time and maybe $10 to $15 in food or supplies, but it makes a difference to them. And it's something that I'm physically capable of doing, that I have the time to do, and works out in my schedule. Maybe that's not something that works for you, or maybe that's not a big concern in your area, but I'm sure there's something that is, that you can get involved with and help out with. We are a community, and that means we stand together and work together to protect each other. We are all we have. And I hope that as things progress and as things go forward, we can become an even better, even stronger community, have more compassion and grace for each other within this community work, and work harder to create safer spaces. All right, that's my little try to get ready with you. Maybe the next one will be happy, but no promises given the current state of the world. All right, folks, thanks so much for sitting down and chatting, and I can't wait to talk with you again next week. Bye.